Thank you for downloading this in-ear entertainment podcast. You're listening to Shakespeare's Sonnets. Sonnet number 14. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck, and yet methinks I have astronomy, but not to tell of good or evil luck, of plagues or deaths or seasons quality, nor can I fortune to brief minutes tell, pointing to each his thunder, rain, and wind, or say with princes if it shall go well. By oft predict that I in heaven find, but from thine eyes my knowledge I derive, and, constant stars, in them I read such art as truth and beauty shall together thrive. If from thyself to store thou wouldst convert, or out of thee this I prognosticate, thy end is truth's and beauty's doom and date. That was sonnet number 14. We're having real trouble with the with Skype today, it seems, but that was sonnet number 14. I'm Mark Chatterley, and I'm joined as ever by the wonderful, talented, brilliant, good-looking. He just wants more adjectives. Well-dressed, well-spoken.
I'm not that well. I'm wearing an orange shirt today. But
I was hoping you'd cut in after a couple of adjectives then, but
you just kept
not.
going, and I can't see your face anymore, so I'm not. It's quite hard to tell when there is a turn.
It's really on our we record these over Skype, and our connection seems to be cutting my camera every couple of minutes, and I can't re-establish the connection from this side. It's very odd. That was sonnet number 14, which is still firmly in the procreation sonnets and the fair youth group of sonnets. But this one is a nice little shift from nature, and has become a kind of precognition type sonnet. There's a lot of references to telling the future in it. I'm guessing you agree with me.
No, not at all.
Well, how do you?
No, this is definitely the as you said before we started recording, the sort of fortune telling sonnet, and looking at the future, and even with the use of, because he says astronomy, but at the time their knowledge of astronomy was still
pretty much
very very basic, and what we would consider astrology today, and they were convinced that the planets and the stars have an influence on our lives, and
just in case there is anyone listening, astrology is rubbish.
Yes, we have actually scientifically disproven astrology,
which is a good thing to be. Which is the whole interesting twist, I guess, on this sonnet to me, is that in Old Testament and even in New Testament, fortune telling is not particularly liked. It's frowned upon quite a lot. And I know it's in a fair amount of Shakespeare's plays. You got the witches and stuff, but it's always I think anyway, from my knowledge of Shakespeare's plays, associated with evilness, and you've got the witches telling the future, and it's all secret. But now we've got Shakespeare using it as a mechanism to tell this person that they are beauty. They are the beauty with a capital B. They are the personification of an ideal. And I think that's interesting in itself, that Shakespeare would have taken something which would have been taboo in his age, and has worked into a love sonnet.
You say it's been taboo, but there are instances, even in the Bible, where fortune telling was a good thing. I mean, the star guiding the three, what were they, wise man to Jesus' birthplace, and announcing the birth of the Christ, and
I suppose there's a difference between that, which would be prophecy, and just
as in someone
reading
the stars. Yeah, I guess you're. Yeah, you're probably right with that. Looking into a crystal ball, and
they talk about in this. It's reading the stars. Nor can I fortune to brief minutes tell, pointing to each his thunder, rain and wind. So I don't know whether that's talking about the reading the future from weather patterns, maybe, or am I misunderstanding that?
It's actually a good question.
It's interesting, but essentially this poem is saying, I don't read the future through stars. I don't read the future through weather. I don't use it to do this, but I look into your eyes and I can tell instantly that truth in you is beauty, and together beauty and truth shall thrive, and it's quite a lovely sonnet. And then it ends with, or else of thee this I
It's a hard word, that one.
Prognosticate, as into the action of telling the future. And by end is truth's and beauty's doom and fate. So the death of you is the death of truth and beauty, which is immense.
Well, I mean, for the last 15 sonnets, he's been going on about how this guy is basically the epitome of beauty, and but saying that the beauty would end with his death if he doesn't procreate kind of fits within that whole scheme of trying him to have children.
Yeah, and elevates this child, this fair youth, to almost mythical, godlike status. He's saying that all truth and beauty stems from him. If it dies with him, then all current truth and beauty must stem from him. And that's raising someone up. It's just destroying all of Christianity here. You've got fortune telling, you've got holding someone before thy God, which is obviously commandment number 1. Do not kill, which a lot of people seem to think is commandment number 1, which is actually around about commandment number 6 or 7. Quite low down on the list of 10 commandments.
The first 3 or 4 are about God, because God is the most important thing.
Yeah, hold no other gods before me. I used to know them all, but I know that's the first one anyway.
I don't.
We both got puzzled looks on our heads going, what are the 10 commandments?
I knew them when I was like 6 or 7.
To be fair, though, the 10 commandments do change depending on which book of the Old Testament you're reading and in the New Testament you're reading, and the order in which they come out do change. But anyway, we cover a lot of things in this podcast. It's quite good.
But not Shakespeare.
But not Shakespeare.
We seem to be going off on quite a lot of tangents.
But that's the fun. I mean, that's what poetry is about, isn't it? Poetry makes you think. Well, at least I believe that's one of the jobs of poetry. And even if you're not thinking about the poem, you're still thinking, and that's a good thing. Because we need to challenge ignorance in the world.
We can be the...
You're just nodding.
Yeah, we can be the saviours of knowledge and critical thought.
This is where we're going to launch our election campaign from next year, this podcast. I'm going to go for Prime Minister of the UK, and Thierry's going to go... Do you have Prime Minister in Luxembourg?
I don't know. I quite like to be Minister of Propaganda somewhere. I think I could do that.
Would you actually call yourself the Minister of Propaganda?
Why not? I mean, maybe not during the election
anything.
run, but once I got to power, I'd just go... MP for propaganda within the Commonwealth.
Excellent. Okay, you've got that job. I think it'd come with a good salary, I'm sure. What do you think of this sonnet? Let's go back to sonnet number 14.
I prefer the previous one, sonnet 13, just for the rhythm and.
Really?
I like the imagery in this one. I like the foretelling, and I'm wondering because we were saying earlier the thunder, rain, and wind, whether that's just pointing towards different phases in someone's life. Because we had what was it, gusty storms of winter something in sonnet 13.
We did, yes.
Which sort of pointed towards death and decay. So I'm wondering if thunder, rain, wind, if the weather is pointing towards something bad coming.
And I suppose back in I keep calling them Shakespearean times because I'm really not sure on proper dates.
Elizabethan
but back in
times.
Shakespearean times, Elizabethan, isn't it? Yeah. Back then, thunder, rain, wind, storms. Essentially, is what we're saying. Storms would have been a very scary phenomenon. They would have been harbingers of death, even if it wasn't death of you. But I imagine a lot of houses weren't particularly stable back then. It could mean, if a storm came at the wrong time of the year, the end to your crops, the end to your livelihood. And so storms would have been seen as much more important.
Well, yeah, and even
predicting them.
Storms, lightning forests, fields could burn down, and I mean we still have that happen today. But today to a certain extent, we have firemen and we have the technology to keep it under control as best as we can.
Yeah.
Obviously, we still have big bush fires in Australia and California sometimes, but it would have been even scarier at the time.
And looking at this country, we record these slightly in advance, so when this one goes out, this will have all been over, but there's a lot of flooding going on in the UK at the moment because of storms that have hit the sort of southwest. I know in my village we were stuck in or out, depending on where you were, of my village for 4 or 5 hours because every single road into the village had flooded and cars couldn't pass and you couldn't walk through it. So, I mean, even storms to this day can wreak havoc, but back then when there was no tarmac and it was just dirt roads everywhere, they would have been massive events.
Well, I mean, even today we had Hurricane Sandy just a few weeks ago that shut down one of the biggest cities on the planet for days. And
yes, yeah, exactly that. And so this nor can I fortune to brief minutes tell, pointing to each as thunder, rain, and wind, or say with princes if it shall go well. I suppose what I'm trying to say is that we read pointing to each as thunder, rain, and wind, and we think, well, thunder, rain, and wind aren't that big a deal, but they would have been. That would have been a massive deal, and so I guess that line would have had a much more impact. I guess that's all my point was. There's a lot of talk for a very small point, I admit.
It's a very important point to make, though, because you could just go past that line and go, yeah, a bit of thunder. I don't really care. You just close the windows and you sit inside, read a book. But that's obviously not how it worked at the time.
Turn the central heating up. Central heating. God. I would have been a very, very bad Elizabethan.
But they didn't really know any different.
I would have been complaining.
You just wear more layers. And, well, we have enough people complaining today. Twitter and Facebook are just a platform for complaining in the 21st century.
It's social complaining, not social media.
Pretty much.
It's too cold. Christmas, too many Christmas things in the shop.
I'm not moaning now. It's almost December now. I'm quite happy having Christmas now, and I've done Halloween, I've done Thanksgiving, and it can be Christmas now. I'm fine with it.
Okay, it's allowed to be Christmas
mid-October.
now.
It's a bit too. We had here in Cardiff. We've had Christmas trees up in St David's Centre, the shopping mall. For those people who don't know, shopping arcades. Mid-October, they put up a Christmas tree. That's just too early. I don't want mince pies in October.
In October is very early.
It loses its specialness if you just start months in advance. And
yeah, I agree with that. Maybe it could just be a tree. They should phase it. They should have the tree there and then have it with Halloween-y stuff. And then they take all the Halloween-y stuff off and leave it a week, and then they put on all the Christmas stuff. They could theme the tree.
Have a pumpkin.
That's what I would.
Themed Christmas tree. I was almost about to say a pumpkin tree, but then that's not.
Because if you want your pumpkins, you shake the branches of the pumpkin tree, and all the pumpkins fall down.
Like coconuts, yeah.
They come down like coconuts, and if you're lucky, the birds have actually pecked evil faces into them. And that's where it comes from. The evil faces. That's true. True story. It's like the spaghetti trees back in the UK in the 80s. The BBC did a documentary about spaghetti and had how the Italians harvest the spaghetti from the spaghetti trees.
I don't think I ever saw that.
And loads of people in the UK at that point then believed spaghetti grew on trees. It was amazing.
Oh, God.
Back when the BBC wasn't scared to do things like that, and Ghostwatch being the epitome, and that's what stopped it for everyone else. But we'll talk about Ghostwatch some other time. I'm sure I'll work that into a sonnet somewhere else. Yes, so this poem, he doesn't tell the truth. He tells the future from the beauty and the eyes of this man, and if this man dies, beauty and truth die. So yeah, it's a big deal. That's why this person needs to have kids, because we need to keep beauty and truth in the world.
It's sort of a big one to have truth die with someone. I wonder if the truth might have had another meaning in the time.
Well, truth and beauty tend to be linked throughout history, don't they? I mean, the from children always tell the truth and but
I guess you still have. I mean, con men today. We tend to trust people who are pretty more easily than ugly people.
Yes.
Not quite sure where that bias
because
comes
ugly
from.
people, obviously, they have to lie and deceive to get you into bed. That's what they have to do. I know, because it's what I've done. From a very quick Google, I can't see any historical meanings or changes from truth. But that doesn't mean they aren't there. Send us an email if you can. If you go to our website, there's a contact form. So send us an email and correct us. And then we will congratulate you on air. We won't take the mickey out of you at all.
Because that's not what we do here.
Yes.
We are very serious professional people.
We're very serious. And we're not sat here eating donuts and drinking while doing this. Yes. I've just realised it doesn't say death, does it? It says of plagues of dearths or seasons quality, or is that just a misprint in the version I'm looking at? Line 4.
That's the one I have as well, of plagues of dearths of seasons, or seasons quality. But then they are very quite strong images of death. It's a famine.
What is a?
It's a famine.
A famine of scarce supply of lack. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I'm with you now. Yes. I did know that. I don't think I've ever seen that word written down before, and it just hadn't made.
Sure, if they still use. I mean, today you would just say famine, or the supply shortage, or whatever the circumstances are.
We can listen to the American website, dearth. The American website telling us how to pronounce it. We need dearth.
That sounds more like an insult. You dearth.
I bite my finger at you, you dearth.
I'll bite my finger. We should bring that back as well. I bite my. Was it?
That's Romeo and Juliet, isn't it? I bite my finger.
I bite my thumb at you. Did you bite your thumb at me, sir? Yeah, that's Romeo and Juliet, I think.
That's it.
Yeah, the Montagues and the Capulets, where they. I can't remember who's. We need. That's what Google is for.
It's not Romeo that does it. It's
one of his friends.
So it'd be.
Is it Samson?
Is it Tiberius? Tiberius, one of his friends. God, we're really sorry. Shakespeare.
It's Abraham Samson. Do you bite your thumb at us, sir? I do bite my thumb, sir. Do you bite your thumb at us, sir? It's the law of our side if I say aye, no, and then, yeah.
I bite my thumb, but I cannot say if I bite it at you, sir, or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Samson. I do not bite my thumb at you, sir, but I bite my thumb, sir. Right at the beginning, it's in Act 1. Scene 1, so it's very early on.
And then they sword fight, and someone dies, and it's amazing, and then
DiCaprio kills himself.
And there's a gun, and they're on the beach, and that might be a modern version of it.
You say that. I went to actually see the play in Stratford a couple of years ago, and the balcony scene was just basically her standing on a bed and him lying on the floor. So that's
the cheapest interpretation.
Yeah, that was the entire. That was all the props that they had on stage, just a bed that they could roll around. That just served as everything.
That's quite epic. I quite like that. This particular episode has gone quite a lot. Let's get to the end. I'll let you read Sonnet 14. You can use all the proper pronunciations of the words.
Dearth. Sonnet 14. Not from the stars do I my judgment pluck, and yet methinks I have astronomy, but not to tell of good or evil luck, of plagues, of dearths, or seasons' quality. Nor can I fortune to brief minutes tell, pointing to each his thunder, rain, and wind, or say with princes, if it shall go well, by oft predict that I in heaven find. But from thine eyes my knowledge I derive, and, constant stars, in them I read such art as truth and beauty shall together drive, if from thyself to store thou wouldst convert, or else of thee this I prognosticate, thy end is truth's and beauty's doom and date.
Very good. I've just noticed that either our pronunciation of find or wind has changed from back then, because they're laid out as if they should rhyme in this.
Rain and
So you got tal and well, and then wind and find. So it was either wind or find.
I would probably go with find,
Or-
just because it's in German as well. They have the same word, and they say find. So
Huh? See,
Guess
this
that's
is
the sort of-
why you're doing this with me. You have that wider knowledge.
I'm not saying that would be my guess, that it would be find rather than wind. I
It's a
might
good
maybe
guess.
completely
I'm
wrong.
going to go with that. Excellent. That was Sonnet 14. As I'm sure you just heard, I have been Mark Chatterley.
I have been Thierry Heles.
And we will be back again with Sonnet 15. We'll be back in a couple of minutes, but not for a couple of days for you. Speak to you later.
Bye.
You've been listening to Shakespeare Sonnets with Mark Chatterley and Thierry Heles. This has been an In-Ear Entertainment podcast. To listen to other podcasts or find out more about In-Ear Entertainment, go to www.inearentertainment.com.